All right, thank you so much. Well, I'm Stephen Hill. Some of you know me, some of you don't. Um, I'm doing this from Spain, where I live. I've lived here for the past 15 years in a little village called La Herradura, which is about right in the southern part of Spain. And it's a small village right by the sea in the province of Granada. And I'm about, for those who know the Orca Group, I'm about 55 minutes, about an hour from the Orca Group. So right on the coast of Granada. So yeah, I chose this this village quite a few years back, and it's been a roller coaster ride. And I was originally from Lewes, and I had a lot of involvement in Lewes. I'm from Lewes, really. I'm almost born and bred in Lewes, but I've been around Lewes since I was about 9. So I was sort of part of the Suba group there very strongly. So then, and so I've been here basically 15 years, and I find myself almost sometimes, well, there's another guy here, but I found myself the only Suba member really here. So it's quite an interesting experience to be. My wife also does the Latihan as well, but it's quite an interesting experience to be here and maintain my Latihan and maintain my work. So I rub shoulders with a lot of people, all sort of internationally, via my workshop. So what do? I'm a guitar maker in the Spanish tradition. And so that means I make Spanish guitars. And I've got everyone view here now. That's like interesting. So, and I've been doing this since 1985. That was when I started actually building instruments. And I left school in 1984 and very quickly sort of started on my pathway to making instruments, starting with a lute, which I built on the kitchen table, a Baroque lute. And but it all came about through sort of 1984, 1985, leaving school, and then suddenly sort of launching into a personal crisis, as many of us have done, and suddenly realized that the Latihan was right there in front of my eyes. I've been sort of searching for something. And of course, my mum and dad, Rosalind and Hamilton Hill, were sort of such strong Suba members. I sort of rebelled strongly against all that crazy stuff. Even the Bappa came to visit, and it was a massive watershed. And I was in Glan-Severn in Wales, and I met Harvey Peters, and he said to me, because I was doing some furniture making up with the Lampards up in Wales. And he said, if you wanted to come and do Latihan with us now, you just have to come in because you're a child of a Suba parent. So, and I was so taken aback that I could possibly do the Latihan, and it set in motion everything like that. So I eventually started to, very quickly after that, started to do Latihan. And that coincided with my musicality sort of coming out again, because I used to play guitar when I was about 8 years old, Spanish guitar. So I suddenly, in a sense, found my musicality again. And with the woodwork I was doing, the two things coincided, and like a light went on, and I was really understood that was my pathway, was to make instruments. And so then in those days, 1985, 1986, it was really hard to find that the opportunities to actually be able to actually learn the trade of being a guitar maker. But I did do it, and I started my first workshop in Sussex, on the farm where we used to live, Boathouse Farm, and then quickly moved to Lewes, and then I came on this sort of journey of finding flamenco, which is where Spain came in. Spain obviously featured with the Spanish guitar, obviously, but then flamenco was something, because I hadn't really discovered flamenco before, and flamenco was really like the beginnings of that sort of passion and searching for basically the sort of root and the soul of the guitar. So I made my way eventually to Spain after going to Italy, met Sebastian Blakely there, and did all sorts of fun and amazing things in Italy, working on the project of San Donino, the Villa Sussila Dama, which was about 88, started about 85, 86, 87, that sort of stuff. By 88, I made my way via Italy and arrived in Spain on this sort of quest to find flamenco and to find gypsies and to find the truth of what I was what I was doing with guitar making and musically and everything. So I started playing a lot of flamenco guitar, I had a lot of lessons, and completely immersed myself in the sort of Spanish culture. And I was only here for about 3 or 4 months, but I met so many guitar makers, rubbed shoulders with such amazing guitarists, and it was something that every time I went into a workshop, into one of the guitar workshops, especially in Granada and in Cordoba, the smell hits you when you go in. If you were actually in my workshop now, you would notice a strong smell of these beautiful timbers of spruce, cedar, cypress, ebonies, and you know, it's the hot glue and all sorts of things. It's the most amazing, intoxicating smell, which I personally can't smell anymore. But anyone comes into my workshop, they're like, "God, what an amazing smell!" And I joke, say it's my aftershave, of course, but actually it's the workshop. So so many years later, I went back to England and set up my workshop in Lewes, sort of 88, 89, and I remember going to the World Congress in Sydney and doing some testing about my work, because I was really I was questing for, that was really what I was 100% 100% committed to being a guitar maker. And it was such a powerful thing for me, this whole experience of making instruments, that I remember testing with some people in the Congress in Sydney about what it meant for me to be a guitar maker, what it meant for me to make musical instruments. And so we tested, and it came out that my hands, I was like a magician with my hands. I had magic in my hands, and it was a strong sense of putting into action my spiritual life. And then when I was working and really truly sort of immersed in my work, I was completely at one with myself and with my work and with the Latian, sort of basically, you know, all humming on 5 cylinders, 6 cylinders. So that was another sort of proof that yeah, that was really my way forward. This was really my life's work. So then I came back after sojourns in India and things, and really set about becoming a professional maker. And I remember reading some books, because all I had was books in those days. There was no internet to look at how you make guitars. It was all from books and things. And I remember looking at some books and looking at pictures of guitar makers, and you could see these sort of fat old guys with glasses like an inch thick and sort of like stooping like that. And I thought, God, you know, who is that? You know, that, yeah, I'm not like that. You know, and then it was such a weird thing of thinking those were the guitar makers, and I was just me. I was just me, and I was building instruments. I was making guitars, but I wasn't a guitar maker. And then the penny dropped one day that yes, I was a guitar maker. And it was like, I took on my role, I took on my title, and everything really came together professionally. So I suddenly realized that I was myself and that I was a guitar maker, and this was my life's work. So, I mean, I hope I'm 35 years down the line of making instruments, and I hope that's you know, I hope to carry on making instruments the rest of my life, you know, amongst doing other things as well. But I love my work. It's an amazing passion and amazing feeling while I'm working, that I still feel this connection with myself, and feel at peace, and feel like I'm sort of I'm at peace. I'm one with myself. And so that's me, and that's what I do. So you can see behind me. So maybe I give you a quick tour. I'm just trying to find, here we go. I'm going to flip my camera. So I'm going to give you a quick tour of my workshop so you can see where I work. It's quite a big workshop. And at the moment, I'm running an international course here with 4 students from around the world. Amazingly, they've come down to southern Spain, to Andalusia, to actually be here and make make guitars with me for one intensive month, which is one part of my work is to basically teach the art of guitar making. So I normally run 2 or 3 courses a year for a month apiece. I'm normally teaching for 2 or 3 months a year to people. And I know even this one of my old students, Lucas, is there. So yeah, Lucas was that's his way into Subbut was via the workshop. So it's an amazing experience. So yeah, this is my own sort of personal bench where I do most of my own work. So it's a nice, good sized bench here, and I use this section here and this section here to pile on things when this bench gets too full. And then, of course, I have a machine room here because it's not all about handwork. Also, we use machines to speed up the production and to make things far more efficient. So it's a bit dirty and dusty here, but that's the way it goes. Lots of machines here, routers, amazing contraptions to cut the binding channels for the guitars. And we have some industrial sanders, another industrial sander, that's a nice one, Lucas, and then a bandsaw here, and then various other machines in here like that. So, and then of course, we go into my office, and in my office is like the polishing room where I do sort of administration things. This is my polishing bench where I do the French polishing. You can see here some guitars hanging up in various stages of being polished. They're like that, 1 or 2 with strings on, but the three in the stage of being polished. And so this is my sort of domain. This is my home. This is where I spend many, many, many hours of my life making and building instruments. So I wanted to show you also, I'm going to go over back again to the screen, and I wanted to show you the innards of a guitar in construction. So here, this is a flamenco guitar. Not many people actually see the inside of an instrument. And so here you have the soundboard in here, and you have the sides of the guitar here, and you have the neck in there built in the Spanish style here with a through heel and foot connection. And this is the mold that we actually build the instrument in. And when we put the back on, then the back is complete, and then we take it out of the mold. So this is like the inside of the strutting system here, a 5-fan system. And these little blocks we're just gluing in individually all around to bind the sides with the front here. So that's the inside of one of my guitars. And this is actually a Stephen Hill Model 2, which is built by one of my, got low battery here, one of my apprentices, currently Italian guy called Alessandro. And so this is basically, and I'll just show you my street. You might be able to see my street a bit, which is a very pretty cobbled sort of street here. Here we go, this is Andalusia. And there's even a guitar built in stone in here to sort of signify that this is my guitar workshop. And you see here, you walk in, Stephen Hill, Constructor de Guitarras, into the workshop here like that. So I'm not quite aware of the time, but I'm going to flip round. And so, I mean, I think maybe it's nice if people would like to ask me some questions as well, to sort of, to maybe get a bit more sense of things. If anyone wants to speak up and ask me anything about what I'm doing.
Yeah, Stephen, what is the kind of gestation period of a guitar?
Well,
if you only had one to make.
Yeah, if I had one to make, I would be getting the materials in, and then I would start work, and then I could probably finish the instrument, I would suggest, in about 2.5 weeks, something like that. And then I would be polishing the instrument for about a month after that.
A month?
So about a month after that, yeah. And so yeah, it's you know, approximately speaking, I could build the instrument in about 100 hours.
Yes.
Yes. Plus the polishing. So it's a, you know, it's a very labor intensive thing, 120 hours. So that's sort of time. And then
50, Stephen.
Yeah, oh yeah, I've sped up, Lucas.
It really used to be 150, and you've got such an amazing setup now that I think that must speed things up hugely.
It does. I mean, also because, but if I was to make one guitar from scratch and make every component from scratch, it may take a little bit longer. But I'm preparing, you know, a bunch of bars, a bunch of this, a bunch of that, and then I select out from that. And also, I'm building 3 at a time, so that sort of speeds up the process. Instead of doing one job and then another job, you're doing the same job 3 times in the same motion, so to speak, so that it speeds things up. But yes, about 100 hours.
Good.
That's one of the first questions people ask is, how long does it take to make a guitar? That's the first question. So see if you can guess the second question.
How much are your guitars? How much do they cost?
Oh my God, that is the second question. There's also a third one, but the second. Okay, well, the question is, how much are my guitars? Well, a Stephen Hill master model guitar will cost you 5,000 euros plus Spanish VAT at 21%. That's what it's going to cost you. So it's about 6,000 euros. Or you can pay me cash and pay 5,000. Or if you're Superman, you can pay me cash and get a discount. I'm joking. You've got to pay the VAT. So yeah.
Stephen, you said something that really quite blew me away, because I really admire creative people. And you said, I started with a Baroque lute, like you just suddenly got up one morning and made one. But you obviously went through a great deal of personal search and growth as well. So what brought you to making the lute and started the whole thing? Did you spend a long time learning techniques, or did you just suddenly understand something?
Well, I think it was 85. It was the beginning of 1985, and it was my very first instrument. And actually, I can actually show you that instrument because it sits on the wall. So I'm going to swing my camera around, and there you can see that instrument. There is my very, very first instrument there, and next to it is a violin template, which then that was the next stage. But yeah, why did I make a lute? Which is a sort of a pretty obscure instrument to make. It's because I went to a lute concert by an amazing lutenist called Stephen Stubbs, and it was in Lewes in the Grange Gardens in the Grange building in the Grange Gardens in Lewes, and it was a concert, a very small concert, very intimate concert, and the sound of that instrument absolutely blew me away. It was like you could hear this bells and it was so it just blew me away. The lute is a very special instrument, very beautiful instrument, and it also, when you listen to lute music that goes back to Baroque, Elizabethan times, it also brings up, it stirs that ancient sort of ancestry that you can feel that very perhaps Britishness, Englishness, or Italianness, or German, depends what you're playing. And the instrument sounded just so incredible. It was like bells, everything. I could hear the wood vibrating. I really could. And that was it. I had to make a lute, you know. There was no option. I had to make a lute. So then I got a kit from the early music shop in London that came down, and I proceeded to build it on my kitchen table in the house. And I bent, you know, there's a bowl to the instrument. So I made up this contraption where I sort of built this wooden box with a tube that stuck into the kettle, which was on the Argo, you know, one of these great big sort of ever going ovens. And I boiled the kettle with this tube that steamed inside this box. It steamed the wood. And when I pulled it out, because I could then pull it over to the shape on my mold, and I basically, you know, steamed it with the kettle on the Argo. So that's why it was. And after that, then I started to work with a violin maker, and he said to me, he taught me so much. He taught me about sharpening tools. He taught me sort of perfection, where perfection was, how to produce the perfect joint, how to glue things together perfectly, how to sharpen a tool so that it was literally one molecule along the line of the blade. And but then he said to me, I said, listen, I've heard about this guitar making course, you know, in West Dean and you know, in Chichester. And he said, well, you can go and do that, but I warn you, if you do that and you do this, you're going to be a jack of all trades. You're not going to be a master. So he said, in a sense, you have to choose. And I said, well, I'm a guitar player. That's what I choose. So then I, shortly afterwards, I left him, and I then took the path of the guitar maker at that point.
Thank you. That's just so interesting. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Hi, it's Steve Dancy. You can't see me. I've turned the video off. I'm
Okay.
really fascinated by the sounding board on the inside. I had an old friend who died many years ago. He used to make steel resonating guitars in like 1930s style with a sounding board. And he was experimenting using different materials to make them. He was using fiberglass and stuff like that. So in terms of Spanish guitars, do you experiment with different techniques to make them sound different at all?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm a sort of a maker who is always questing after the perfect sound. So, I work with quite a few different systems, and I keep on changing things. And so, for instance, in the example that I showed you of this particular guitar here, this is like a Swiss spruce from the Alps in Switzerland. So it's growing at very high altitude, and it's using what we call 5 fan struts. So the spruce, or the other timber I would use would be cedar, which is from North America or Canada. The cedar would give you quite a different sound from the spruce. The spruce is more along the lines of the ancient European tradition of building instruments. So the spruce is the original timber, whereas the cedar is a timber that only really came out from about 1950, 1960s. And then, with these 5 struts in here, sometimes I use 7, sometimes I use 6, sometimes I've used 9. So I'm always like questing about finding the sound. And the one thing I say to my students is if you're trying to, we're going to start building an instrument, and I said the first thing you have to do, you have to imagine the instrument, you have to hear the instrument, you have to imagine what you want to be building. And so that they're like, oh God, it's like, oh, I want it to sound like this, or I want it to sound like that, or I want it to look like this. And so they have to, the exercise of actually creating in their mind what they want to be building, their dream guitar, their perfect guitar. And I always also talk about personality in the instruments, and I talk about metaphysics as well. And I talk about that. One very important little lecture I give during my courses is actually our human interaction. And this is really, I think this is really where the Latin comes in, or this is where our spiritual feelings come in, and our sensitivity. The actual physical interaction between our bodies and the material is what creates beautiful art and things that have content, like paintings, like musical instruments, like cooking. Everything like that is where we have a human interaction between the material and ourselves. Because if you really go deeply down into it, as we know, there's space between the molecules. And if you look at a tree and you go deeply, deeply into the tree, suddenly the molecules of that wood suddenly separate, and there you have space, and there you have a sort of a vibration waiting to happen. And that's what happens with a musical instrument. It's a vibration waiting to happen. We as human beings, we are the same. You go into our bodies more and more, right to the deepest point of the molecule, and we have space between our atoms, and we are held together by vibration. So I'd say to people when I'm teaching them what to do, how to build instruments, is that this is your interaction, this is your connection with the material, and this is what's going to make that instrument alive. And we do that sometimes in the point of that moment of closing up the box or putting the back on. I say to them, we're going to bless the instrument. You're going to put your hand inside. You're going to try and close your eyes, try and feel, spend some moments feeling with your hand, feeling some vibration in your hands to try and connect with the instrument and to bring life to this instrument and to bless it. So it's really, I think, and that's what we all do that. And it's making food, or we're too busy, we don't bother. But I think the more we can do that, the better. You can even bless your McDonald's hamburger. I think Buffer said once, it wouldn't give you indigestion.
That's great. Thank you very much. I hope we're going to hear you play something.
Oh, goodness me. Well, I suppose I could briefly. I suppose I could do very briefly. If I,
as somebody who was spontaneously opened whilst studying guitar making with Stephen, I can attest to his spiritual approach to guitar making. Yeah.
Stephen, I
Spiritual
wanted to
approach,
ask a question about the inlays. How do
Yeah.
you form your designs for the inlays? Do you have set
Okay.
designs, or do you just?
I do have a set design. Yeah. Let me see if I can find a rosette that's inlaid. I've just finished a whole bunch of things, but I think, yeah, I've got something here that will give you a sense of what it is. You see here, I don't know if you can see, hold on. Oh, here we go, look. There you can see, that's the rosette. That's the rosette, and that's all done with hand, all done with mosaic work and with inlays. It's all wood encrusted into the top, actually put into the top. So you see it's like flat there, like that. And that's...
Could we see the bit where you haven't finished?
The components, yeah, I can show you some components of that. Let me have a look to see if I can, here we go, look, here's some components. So you see the mosaic in the middle, and here, you see here, these are the components to the mosaic. So basically, I hope you can see this good. So you see here, I don't know if you can see it well enough. Yeah, I suppose you can. This is like a slightly different pattern now. It's a bit more modern, a bit more funky, brighter. And you can see how those little tiles go together to form the design. Can you see that there? And that will be inlaid into the middle there like that. And then that's basically, so it's a slightly different design from what's there before, which I find nicer. It's brighter sort of design. And that's made from like a stick. You see here is a stick here, which I make up. And then at the end there, you see the mosaic there. And you see the diamond, the sort of full diamond, then you see two half diamonds. So when you put two tiles together, the half diamond becomes a whole one. And you see that there, you see the half diamonds meet together and become a whole diamond. So that's basically the sort of the strong tradition of making these rosettes. Is called in Spanish, it's called a tarafea, which is mosaic work. And it's something I teach here when I'm teaching making. That's something I teach, is that exact form of building. So yeah, so I've got my guitar here, and I'm gonna do this here. I don't know if you can, and maybe I might even turn it around, but I think it's okay. So this is a guitar which I built in 2008. It's on the label inside there, 2008. And I built it because I went to buy some wood from an old guy was a guitar maker in Granada, who was actually jubilando. He was retiring. So basically, I went to buy a whole lot of timber from him, and then he said, "Well, can you bring me one of your guitars?" I said, "Well, I'm really sorry, but I actually don't have any of my guitars. I've sold them all." And he was like horrified that I didn't actually have my own guitar. And so he gave me all this wood, and he said, "So this guitar," he said, "all the wood I'm going to give you, when you finish, you've got to come and show me the guitar, and you're not allowed to sell it. You never ever sell it." So I put in there, for my children, Aiden and Zoe. I've since had another one, so I think I have to make another guitar. I've actually got 5 kids in total, so they will have to share a lot of instruments. And so basically, this is a flamenco guitar. It's just a guitar. It's a really nice guitar. It's got sort of a bit of soul to it, really, and
Stephen, can I just interrupt you? You said it's so loud that it's compressing it and it sounds really terrible. So it sounds,
Oh, really? Does it sound awful?
it does
Oh,
sound
that's the
awful. Yes, so
That
stand
was
back and it sound great.
That was the best. That was the best performance of my life. Does that sound a bit better?
It's still too loud for the mic. For some
Really, seriously, it's such a loud guitar. I'll go over the other side of the room.
Outside in the street.
Oh, yeah. Is that better?
Yes, excellent.
Yeah. So that's typical flamenco.
Thank
Zoom
you.
is not your friend, Stephen, when it comes to.
So there we go. I think I must be about done by now.
I just wanted to say, Stephen, it's Mardia here. Hello.
Hello, Mardia.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, that was really
Good.
brilliant. I had to sort of eat in between, but I've seen so many pictures of your workshops and stuff on Facebook. But I just wanted to say to, as a musician, I know exactly what you're up against on Zoom, and it completely alters the sound. And but what I could hear in your guitar is it was fantastic clarity in the sound and also strength, which will project. So I can say bravo for a thoroughly professional instrument. Really
Fantastic.
excellent, and also good for you, for getting up and playing. I mean, I'm just keeping you curry tonight, mate.
I was a bit nervous, but I mean,
Yeah,
no one
yeah,
can
no,
even really, and
it
you couldn't
sounds.
even. It was all distorted anyway, so.
Yeah, exactly. But it sounds really punchy with a lot of clarity, and
Yes,
that's what you need.
it is for flamenco, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, really percussive
could've-
sound.
I could have played some Bach, but my nails aren't.
No.
quite right today.
Anyway, it's good to see you.
You too. Okay.